What's up, everybody? So, was just thinking about something I wanted to promote. I'm doing some lives this week. This week, we're going to be promoting some lives because I'm doing, I have a special event. And in commemoration of the special event, I'll be talking about it later on in the event today, the talk today. I'm going to be doing some just really some background on things I'm noticing when, I'm working right now with a bunch of top, high growth CEOs in my business, and I'm doing consulting. And since I left TMS, I started a consulting practice where I'm advising some really high growth CEOs. And I noticed something that was surprising to me. I noticed that in some of the companies, especially the smaller companies, that they didn't really have a distinct process on hiring people. And I don't know if any of you have experienced this or not, but a lot of people just put ads out, and then, they'll get people to show up to a job interview, and then, they kind of feel them out. Maybe they go grab a beer with them afterwards. And, if they like them, they're going to hire them. And the number one thing that I noticed that was really so shocking to me was I noticed that a lot of my clients weren't really digging into the resume the way that I do, and I did. And the what I've learned, and my last business, we probably hired a couple thousand people, and I saw this with my managers too. I saw that our managers were not necessarily hiring the way that I would. And maybe you've experienced this too, where you go and hire somebody and you expect them to kind of do as good of a job as you would do when you're hiring people. And I noticed that they were not doing this one major thing that I do, which is try to read between the lines on a resume. So I go into LinkedIn, for instance, and I'd look and see, and I'd say, okay, well, wow, this person, has had 5 jobs in the last 5 years, right? Every year, every 12 months, they're leaving their jobs. And I was like, this is crazy. We call that job hopping. Or they'll have one good stint for like 3 or 4 years, and then they'll hop around for 3 or 4 years. And what I said to a lot of my clients is, I said, look, how many times have you done that? Think of yourself. How many jobs have you had in the last 5 years? And this person's had 5, or this person's had 7 in the last 10 years. And I said, that's a red flag that they can't, that they can't even hide that on their resume. The second thing that I realized was, and what I told a couple of my clients, I said, listen, the number one thing I do in an interview process is try to figure out what people are not telling me that they need to be telling me. Right? What are they hiding? And I don't mean to be cynical, but people, it's like online dating. I jokingly say this is kind of like when I've been married now for 14 years, going on 14 years, and I've been with my wife since 2002. So I never was in the online dating world. So I don't know this from experience, but I have lots of friends that have done online dating. And my brother, who's a single guy, he's online dated. And so I've seen that people put their best foot forward when they're online dating. And so I just make that comparison. I said, this is kind of like online dating, and that people always put their best foot forward on their LinkedIn profiles. They put their best foot forward when they are promoting themselves for a job. And your job, our job as a manager or CEO or entrepreneur or business leader, is to try to see what is it that they're not telling me. And so the biggest way I've learned to do that is through a process that I call the ACT hiring process. And what we do is I hire for ability, right? Do they have the ability to do the job, right? And then then I'm looking at these other things like, do they have the talent, and do they have, the background to do the job based off of their experience? But the ability and alignment is what I'm looking for first and foremost in the ACT is, are they aligned with me? Do we have the same alignment? And so what I learned and what I started teaching my clients was, I said, look, what you want to do is you don't want to just assume the best. I would actually kind of nicely assume the worst when I'm digging into their profile. I want to nicely assume that they're a good person, but I'm also looking for holes in the story. I'm going to go look, have they had job hopping? Number one, first and foremost, I don't even have to read a resume if someone's job hopped, because I don't need to be the next job that they hop from. So if they job hopped, it's dead. DOA, dead on arrival, right? And a lot of people don't want to make that kill. Your managers don't want to make that kill. They want to throw a body at the problem. And we all know that when you throw bodies at the problem, that creates more problems. So you can't just throw bodies at the problem. That doesn't fix the solution either. What we want to do is we want to hire for alignment. So I'm looking first and foremost, have they job hopped? If they haven't job hopped, then I want to dig in. I want to start asking them questions about their experience to see if we're aligned from a values perspective. Do they have the ability, and do we have the same values? And this is why you guys hear me talk a lot about core values, but the core values becomes a tool. And I was talking to a buddy of mine, Rick Gerard, about this, and we want to ask some really funky questions. So one of the questions he asks that I love is, he asks candidates, are you lucky? Do you consider yourself a lucky person or not? Which is a really funny question. And I call this reading between the lines. Are you asking them questions to see what the derivative meaning is? And when I ask someone if they're lucky or not, if they start being really negative, I now know that this person, oh no, I'm an unlucky person. I have a shadow, a cloud that follows me around wherever I go. And, it's negativity, this, negativity, that. This is a person that I don't even know them, and they're talking negatively to me through the hiring process. What do you think they're going to do when there's actual problems in the workplace? The answer is, I don't want to be there to find out. I'm not going to like what I see. So his whole thing is like, ask derivative questions. I used to ask questions like, tell me a time when you worked at a company and things didn't go right. How did you handle that challenge? Or can you give me an example of let's say a boss you worked with that you didn't like, right? I just want to see how they respond, if they're being negative or not. It's a derivative question. The reason I ask derivative question is I want to get to the root of how's this person act when I kind of throw them a curveball, or how do they act when things don't go their way? The next thing I want to do, and this is taken from the book Who, is FORK, fear reference check. And I always tell people, I want to know what they're not telling me. What is the one thing that they're not telling me that I can then go find out? And so I'm using the exact last example of, tell me of a time that maybe something didn't work out with one of your bosses. I'd say, yeah, well, tell me about, did you ever work for a boss before that you didn't get along with? I always ask that question in an interview process, by the way. And then they'll say, oh yeah, I worked for this person, John, and he was a jerk and blah, blah, blah. Or, we didn't see eye to eye. And I'll dig really deep into that question. And then from there, what I'll do is, at the end of the interview, and I took this from the book Who, so this is not my work. I'll say, oh, can I have their name, their full name? John, what's John's last name? John Smith. Oh, where's John Smith work now? Oh, John Smith works at such and such incorporated. And then I'll say, oh, do you have their phone number? And then I'll go and talk to John Smith, and that becomes one of my references. So I always tell my coaching clients, I said, I don't actually want their references. I want my own references. Why? Because they're just going to give me their softballs. These are going to be people that are obviously going to talk nicely about them, or else why would they make them a reference? I want the person that they don't even know I'm going to reference check to reference check. So anyway, I've been teaching this, and I had this really cool announcement that on Thursday this week, I have this huge announcement to make, this big promotion. I'm doing a webinar to promote this thing I've been working on for the last year called the Core Value Academy. We're going to be teaching stuff like this in the Core Value Academy. So if you're interested to learn more, we're doing a special one night only event on Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. You could go and sign up at dariusclass.com. And this is one of the things we're going to be talking about, the ACT hiring process. And I'm really excited to bring this work to the world. But we're doing this one and only free webinar. You can go to dariusclass.com to learn more about it. And we'll be talking more about this ACT hiring process, and really, how do you build the foundation for this so that you can make better hires? Because what I've seen is that a lot of people get this wrong, and then they're surprised when they start having problems in the business. And when I say this, and I live and die by this, with the people goes the organization, and with the leadership goes the organization. So we as leaders need to make sure that our team is aligned to us, and we'll be talking about how do you do that in this free webinar. So if you have free time, please register. It's limited seating. It's a one night only event. You go to dariusclass.com and register for the event. I'll put a link in here in this post. But yeah, I'm looking forward to doing this and really taking some of the things that I've learned through my last 20 years of getting my teeth kicked in as an entrepreneur and CEO, and learning the hard way, and bringing this to the entrepreneurial community so that people can build better companies. And this all starts with, how do we build our team? So we'll be teaching this in the webinar, and a few other things that are really, really fundamental to building scale, creating that invisible scale in our business. And that's really where the central point of the webinar is, around this idea of invisible scale. So if you get a chance, please go and register. We're going to do some limited seating on this. Go to dariusclass.com. I'll put the link again in the notes, and looking forward to hanging out with you guys Thursday, 9 p.m. Central, one and only event. Talk to you guys then. See you out. Peace.